Aloha, friends, and welcome back to this week's episode of the Embodied Healing Self. So today I am here in deepest gratitude with Lloyd Burnett. Lloyd is a spiritual teacher. He is a writer, and he is also an author of a book. He works with healing professionals in helping them to access their gifts, share them into the world, and also to access their inherent abundance while sharing their gifts in the world. He offers free training on how to harness the power of your fears and limiting beliefs so that you can effortlessly manifest financial security, deep love, and success in your life. And you also have a podcast, The Healer's Code, that I've really enjoyed listening to. And on paper, although you didn't share this with me, but I've done my homework. He's very humble. He has been published in Huffington Post, Elephant Journal, Mind, Body, Green, Spiritual Biz, to name a few. There could be more. He has the name of your book, I believe, is The Voice in Your Head, and something about accessing financial security.
Something about it.
Something about it. It's kind of a long title.
It is.
And what I'm really excited to share with all my listeners is when I found you a year ago, which was through the Wealthy Lightworker series with Colleen, I was immediately attracted to your energy. You're very grounded and humble and genuine, and often have called yourself the gentlepreneur, which it seems very fitting for you. Mm-hmm. And I really just am deeply honored to be able to share you with my listeners and anybody who's listening in. The topic that I first discovered and heard you share that really grabbed me, and there was actually a quote in what you were saying, was this idea of allowing your fear to be the catalyst for change. And I had been in a space of working towards recognizing my fears and letting them go, rather than understanding the power within them and using all of that energy to create the change and to move forward. And when you said that, I just felt it in all of my body. And so we're going to cover whatever comes up today between recognizing our fears, using them as the catalyst, and manifesting abundance, because there's a pretty strong gap between the two of those, and just see what comes up. So thank you so much for being here with me today.
You're very welcome. And thank you for that warm and generous introduction. I just sat here with my eyes closed and allowed myself to remember who I am, because, there are times when we forget, trying to live in the present moment. We forget where we've come from and what we've done. And it was good to just sit here and hear all of those things that I sometimes completely forget that I do. I'm so engrossed in doing what wants my attention right now that it's like, wow, okay, I did write a book. I forgot about that. So thank you for that reminder.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed witnessing you just receiving that. Sometimes we forget to celebrate how far we've come.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
So I acknowledge you, I witness you, and I thank you for all of those accomplishments that brought us to this moment.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So you currently live in San Diego.
That is correct. I currently live in San Diego. I just got back to San Diego. It's been a little over a week. I was in Morocco, mainly in Casablanca and Marrakesh, for about 6 weeks. And it's an interesting time for me because I'm still in that transition. And it's not jet lag. I realized that jet lag didn't affect me at all, this return, but it's reacclimating to the energy of the United States. that I'm still in that transition period of. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to ask you, because I follow your pictures and stories on Instagram. I love to travel as well, and I know that you do too. Give us some insight to what's new and exciting for you in your life or your business at this time.
So what's new and exciting for me right now is definitely this. I made a shift probably about 3 years ago from accessing inspiration for the next steps in my personal life and my professional life through struggle and through lack, where it was like the universe had to break me down to absolutely nothing for me to finally take that step into what wants my attention now. And I've made the shift to using travel and encountering different cultures, different people, to build up a bank of inspiration that when it's overflowing, it propels me into the next step of my work. So I'm super excited that in the past 3 or so years, I haven't had to fully get broken down to the bare minimum of nothing to be able to take the next step. And as I'm reacclimating to San Diego, I'm in a space where the inspiration has reached the top and I'm ready to overflow into the next phase of my work on this planet. And it's similar to what I've been doing, but it's more in-person live events, possibly retreats, workshops, things like that. I'm moving from solely online work to more in-person work, which is very exciting. I actually did a live event right before I went to Morocco in Atlanta called the Gentle Entrepreneur Live. And girl, it was like drugs. It was like crack cocaine. I got on that stage and I just want more and more and more and more and more. And I am excited to continue following that pull and that call to do my work live and in person.
Yeah, I am like just covered in goosebumps right now. I like the feeling I'm getting right now is your live event in Atlanta. I'm in Jacksonville, Florida. It's a 6-hour drive, and I thought about going, and it was right around my kids' spring break. So I was in the Bahamas. And I know my friend Lisa Fraley was there as well, and she enjoyed the event too. And I just went to an event in New Hampshire and Lisa was there, and Kate Northrup and some other people. And there's something about being in the room with people with a similar vibration and energy where we realize like the world is a lot smaller than we think. Mm-hmm. And we really can create this bigger impact and this change that we want to. And it feels really good to like be in the room with those people and to, it's just like this kind of magical thing that happens. It's almost like out of body. Almost a little bit, the experience is so powerful. And right now, I think what's present for me is like, come back in this, I'll travel to California. I do travel a lot though. So yeah, I'm looking forward to attending one of your live events.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, there's more in the pipeline that we're working on right now. I would be so honored and excited to be able to meet you in person.
I know.
I'm realizing that it's been very important for me to have the kind of geographical distance from the people that I'm connecting with, the people that I'm working with. It's been important to have that for the past, it's been like 7 years since I've been solely online. But I'm in a different phase where I just want to squeeze people. I just want to look into your actual eyes in front of you, and it's a completely different quality of energy. I like both of them, but the in-person is really pulling me now.
Yeah, I love that. That is exciting. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what's next for you, for sure. So you mentioned, I'm just curious, as I was listening to you say, there was a time that what I heard you say was there was a time where moving forward in your business was coming from almost, breaking down yourself into, I don't remember the word you used, but basically just kind of, coming all the way down into almost nothing and then being propelled into moving forward. And I really relate to that. I'm wondering if you would be willing to share a little bit more about what was the shift, or what was the event where you realized that this isn't serving me anymore?
Yeah. The last big shift that I had was before I moved to San Diego, where I basically moved here on a prayer. I had nothing. I came from a very successful personal training, then health coaching practice, where there were wait lists to get into my program for months and months. And I was doing really, really well, winning awards and like a lot of recognition, and feeling very satisfied and fulfilled in what I was doing, until I wasn't satisfied and fulfilled anymore. And it was just working so well that I didn't want to let go of it, even though internally it wasn't working that well. I remember showing up to the gym and just my body was there, being with clients, and they were just working with an empty shell because my soul was somewhere else. It was time for me to move on. And I just held on until the universe was like, okay, there's nothing left here for you to hold on. I went from having wait lists for my programs to absolutely nothing. Nobody even noticing me, nobody paying me for my services anymore, not having a practice, not having anything. And so there was nothing left to grasp to. And so I was forced in a way to make the leap into the next incarnation of my work. And after that really, really painful experience, I was able to pinpoint the moment when the shift was made clear to me that I needed to start transitioning. And I realized that I was just holding on for dear life out of fear, because I didn't know what the next incarnation was going to look like. And I wasn't willing to surrender to it. And so it was when it was in retrospect, I looked back and I said, okay, it doesn't have to get to that point anymore. And I made an agreement with myself and with God that I don't have to be broken down to nothing. Give me a clear sign of what needs to happen next. I will do my internal work. I will get support from all of the people that I have around me to make the transition, and I'm going to do it. And I did I'm in the midst of a big transition, and it's with the live events and things like that. And for the first live event, it was like 6 months of just absolute breaking down again, but not to the level that needed to be in the past. I was still making money. I was still feeling supported by my friends and loved ones. I wasn't at rock bottom, but I was like inching closer and closer to doing this live event, and allowing the part of me that was terrified to jump into this, to be terrified and jump on board with my soul that was pulling me in this direction. So I didn't have to be completely broken down, but it still was a painful transition.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
I was following along at every moment and feeling the journey as you were going through it, and thinking, like, for the people who are listening, how many times we have this sensation in our life, this experience where we know that there's something we're supposed to do, or we want to do it, but it doesn't feel safe, or it doesn't feel, it feels uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And what I love that you said is that you invited the scared part of yourself to be a part of it.
Yeah.
you invited that part of you to just jump on board, was the words that you said. And there are so many times where it's easier to take the path of least resistance and to do what we know, and to, just kind of, sometimes we can almost talk ourselves into thinking that that is the flow, that we are just, just kind of going along with whatever, even though there's a part of our soul or our spirit, or we hear the words in our mind that, or we get that feeling in our gut, like, this is something that you could do, or you hear a message from somebody else. What I want to ask you around that is, for the listeners who maybe, as they're listening to you speak, as they're listening to us speak, they received a vision in their head of something, like a feeling in their body. Oh, there's something that I know that I want to do. And it's so much easier just to turn the other way. Mm-hmm. What is a little kind of nugget of wisdom that you could share, maybe a practice or something that really helped you to embrace this fearful side of you? Because it's not easy to do.
Exactly. It is not easy at all. And I believe that when we allow ourselves to be afraid, we acknowledge that fear, and we see that fear, and we almost step outside of that fear because we're observing it from a sense, and we're not stopping the anxiety or the heart palpitations or the heavy feeling on your chest. There's no need to stop it. We just watch it. And at the same time as we watch it, we tap into something more powerful than ourselves. We tap into our soul, we tap into God, we tap into the divine, the universe, whatever you want to call that force that supports you, your spirit guides. And you pray for the support to bring these parts of you on board to be able to make this transition. So it's an observing of what is happening in the moment, and a prayer or an intention to make the transition with grace and ease. And what you'll notice is that little life vests start getting thrown at you, and you're like, oh, let me take this. And so it doesn't feel like such a struggle anymore to do this. Oh, look at this. Let me grab onto this. And it feels easier. And then these parts of you that are terrified start to perk up, and they're like, well, that doesn't seem that bad. Well, I guess I am being supported right now. And they start to ease up organically with the anxiety and the fear. And then all of a sudden, all of you is like, yeah, let's do this. So it's the honoring of the fear and prayer intention setting for the next step and support along the way.
Yes, I love that you said really this witnessing piece. I know it's a practice that I've been doing for a couple of years, more so since I heard you first talk a year ago about this idea. And, having the same discussion with my children about the idea of just allowing ourselves to kind of step back and just witness this experience, especially those of us that are more energetically sensitive. I think it's, sometimes we don't know what's ours and what's theirs, and it can feel a little bit overwhelming. I know that's something that's been a part of my journey. And so the practice of, I don't have a name for the fearful self, but I literally have a conversation with, oh, okay, I noticed that you're feeling really nervous right now. And I know that I know the belief that it comes from. It's the need to be safe. For me, is one of my, core limiting beliefs, is the desire to be safe in my body. And, and I think it's important to share with the listeners that this is a practice too. It's not like something that you do and it's like you're cured, right? Because our culture is so, is really wanting that, like that instant gratification and the the quick pill, diet pill, and all that stuff, that happens a lot. And this is like a journey. And so yeah, I really love that you shared that, witnessing the fear, it also helps to recognize that we can sort of detach ourselves from it. Because what I've learned over the past couple of years is that our attachment to anything, whether it's suffering, even joy, even our loved ones, like the attachment is, well, first of all, it sort of paints the picture that we are separate, which we're not. And it also creates space for more discomfort, that attachment. So yeah, I love that you share that. So thank you for that.
Yeah. And that attachment is, I love how you speak about it, because it's such an important part of the process. And it's just like our fears. Attachment is a part of us that is afraid that if we don't stay attached to X, Y, and Z, we're not going to be safe. We're going to be in danger. And we can use that attachment to propel us forward. I call it aware attachment. So allowing yourself to be attached, but become aware of it and tell yourself the truth. Right now, I'm aware that I'm attached to this, and I'm just going to witness it. I'm going to see it, and you sit with it. And there may come a point where, just like with our children in the external world, where we have to say, no, right now, this is not going to happen. You're not going to put your hand on the stove because you're going to get burned. We're going to do this instead. I see you. I honor your desire to do this. I honor your fears, but no, enough is enough. So there may come a point in that process of witnessing and observing and holding their fear where you have to put your foot down as the nurturing adult of your internal family and of all of your experiences.
I was just thinking, so this is me being like totally transparent right now. I realized that I was listening to you, and as I was listening to you, I had the fear that I was going to forget what I was going to say. And then I was like, okay, so then I witnessed myself, and I'm like, just trust that you're going to be able to say exactly what needs to be said. And then it came right back to me, it was funny because it actually just happened like in this live present moment. Right. So, and it's human nature that we sort of, we find ourselves in those moments of being present, and then something triggers a thought, because that's the human experience, where it triggers something or an emotion in our body. So something you said triggered something and took me away from my thought. And anyway, so me being transparent, and what came to me was, I remember it triggered me remembering an article that I read of yours where there was a word that you created. Do you remember that? Yeah. So let me see if I can actually say it right. Gratitation. So maybe this was one of your earlier articles that you wrote, but I know that for me in my practice of fear, one of the tools that I use that's really helpful is to immediately go into gratitude. And gratitation is the combination of meditation and gratitude. So the stillness of, being present, because usually when we're in fear, we're either in the future or in the past, right? We're either thinking about something that happened before or worried about what might happen in the future. So that moment of stillness, coming back and centering ourselves into this moment can be a very helpful tool. And then also the practice of gratitude. If you've ever had this sensation, I think it's even scientifically proven, like we cannot feel and express fear and gratitude at the same time. Like I don't know if you've ever tried that, but there's a thing about it. So I've taught this to my kids as well, and I do it with myself. I mean, sometimes I just get overwhelmed with anxiety, and then I come back to my breath, and I come back to what can I be grateful for in this moment after I've done the observing. So that was what I wanted to share was that word that you created. I don't know if you remember that, but I loved it. I loved it. I might even have to quote it at some point in time. I think I wanted to ask you permission for using it again. So
as soon as you said it, I got nervous. I was like, I don't remember what that means.
It's a good one. I love it. We're just making that, we're making our own, spiritual language now. Like that's what we're doing.
Exactly. Things
Yeah.
they just come out when you're channeling things, they just come out. And have you had that experience where you're just like speaking and then all of a sudden you can't remember what you said?
Oh, totally. It's not even me speaking. I'm like, what did I just say? Oh, I didn't even know. Okay. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And
So,
there was one other thing that I wanted to say with that when you were talking, I remembered. And with gratitude, one of the most powerful things that I've experienced is allowing myself to have gratitude for the fear in the moment.
oh, good one.
Finding, and this helps us step into our power as co-creators of our reality, because if we want to manifest what we want, and we only want to take ownership for the quote unquote good things that we manifest, then we're only standing in half of our power. But if we're willing to take responsibility and ownership for the uncomfortable things that we manifest that we co-create in our reality, and we can find some sort of gratitude, then we get to step into the fullness of our power as manifestors. And that is an incredibly alchemizing, energy transforming practice to be able to find authentic gratitude for your fears and things that are uncomfortable.
100%. And to take it a little bit deeper, what I notice is that to take it to that next step, it's actually, there's a part I think where it's allowing yourself the feeling, like the experience, the formless, the energy, the formless. And this goes into manifesting as well. Like these are the two things that I love that you talk about: the allowing your fear to be a catalyst to propel you forward, and then also the manifestation. This is kind of your expertise area, these two areas, the manifestation specifically of abundance, which, by the way, is my word for the year, abundance. And so some of the listeners might be thinking abundance means money. Well, abundance means, to me, right, health, connection, love, joy. It's all of it. Abundance is a feeling. And so the feeling of gratitude, and when we can feel gratitude, when we can allow ourselves to actually access the feeling and the experience of the fear. Now, I'm an experiential learner, so maybe this is where this is coming from, but that is where I've really found my true vulnerability in the willingness to go forward, is to actually go to a place where I'm sitting with how painful and uncomfortable this is in the moment, or how wonderful this is in gratitude. Like gratitude is like that. Your heart is full and you're happy, and it's this overwhelming feeling. But I think so often there's this part, and I think kind of one of the missing links is that sometimes we are wanting to just strictly go on our healthy mindset and create an affirmation and write it down, but not really allow ourselves to fully experience the energy of it. Mm-hmm. Is that so? Yeah. I think that what we're saying is we know it requires a little bit of courage to be uncomfortable, or maybe a lot of courage to be uncomfortable. And the more that we're willing to be realistic and authentic about how uncomfortable it is, we're not sitting in our story, but the more that we can be with it and welcome it on board, as you said, and ask for guidance in the next step, because then it's whole, right? It's not separate. Yes. Then we can really create that change.
Amen.
Yeah. Thanks. What did I just say? Yeah, no.
Mic drop.
Yeah, that's all right. I know. I read a few of your articles. I got inspired. No. So, really, I don't think I said this in the beginning, but I really see you as a mentor. And and to me, a mentor is somebody who is more than just a teacher or a writer, or like there's a deeper layer to the work that you're doing. And I know that most of the people that you serve are entrepreneurs and business coaches, but I also know that anybody who's listening can learn so much from you because you are doing that deeper work. You are really kind of just putting it out there for people to, receive if they're willing to. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to sort of share that with you, that I see you as more of, that deeper layer of really mentorship in creating that bigger change in the world, like training or teaching or mentoring those coaches that are doing the work like I'm doing. So we're on there's this coaching level, and then there's the people who are coaching the coaches, right? So maybe that's going to come out in your live events.
Yeah, you are very attuned to the energy and tapped in. You've completely tapped into everything that I'm experiencing in this transition right now. It's an expansion. It's an opening up to the truth of what I do, which is, the deeper layers of fear and trauma that are universal, supporting people in sitting with those, holding those, honoring those, and moving through those with ease and grace so that they can step into the fullness of who they are. And this has been expressed as work for entrepreneurs in the past. And it's beginning to expand. And this is where the fearful part comes in, because it's like, if I don't have the specific niche of entrepreneurs, how am I going to speak to anybody? I can't just speak to everybody. I have to speak to somebody, to one person. And so this is my current leap of faith, which is expanding my work.
Yeah. So it's like, what we're here to learn, we're here to teach.
Exactly.
And because I hear you saying, I just want to say this again for the listeners. So, because I think sometimes, we don't see ourselves in other people. Like we make the assumption that it's easier or different for other people. And what I hear you saying is that you're having your own experience when allowing your fearful self to come on board to take this next leap of faith.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
And it's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And we are all great. We are grateful that you're willing to do that, because that creates a bigger ripple effect.
Yeah.
Right? We realize it's not just about us anymore and our fear. It's like so much bigger than our fear.
So good.
I know. It's like a juicy piece of fruit.
It really is. It really is.
Yeah.
I love how you're highlighting the human aspect of us mentors, coaches, teachers, whatever label we want to use. We're human as well. And I think that the way that we're evolving is, in the past, people would choose their coaches, their leaders, their mentors based on who is the most perfect guru, or who has exactly what I want and has gone through everything that I've gone through. And now it's more of humanity. We're choosing the people to support us on the journey based on their humanity. So as healers, we're being called to show our humanity more. And it's just like, look at the flow and the evolution of everything, especially technology. It's like all live videos now. Why? Because we're requiring to see the humanness in everybody. And that is supporting this planet in healing so much. All of these people that have been used as ideas of perfection and in this kind of never-ending game of trying to reach the level of perfection of this person, that's all coming apart. And we're seeing the human, and we're able to access more peace with our humanness because we're seeing so many examples of humanness. So
yes, I love that. I love it. I love it. It's been my life story, recovering overachiever, which actually led to a near-death experience, overworking, which led to a second health crisis as a health coach, second career as a health coach. And, I listened to a master class last night with Kate Northrup. She wrote the book, Do Less. I'm like, yes, like, let's just do less and be more. And it's such an interesting and exciting time to be doing the work that we're doing. And really just giving people permission to just show up as they are and to realize that's all they're really here to do.
Yeah.
Just to tap into that gift, which you're really good at helping people access. And it makes me very curious, at when did you know in your life that you were going to be a spiritual mentor? Like, how did that come about for you? Do you have memories in your childhood or?
Yeah, I knew from a very young age that I was going to be a helper, because it was what I was naturally inclined to do, and it's what people always came to me for. I was at a young age in elementary school, helping my mother hold her problems and her issues, and helping my father hold his problems and his issues. It's just something that I wouldn't say it was the healthiest thing for me to express in that moment, but it was something that I was naturally inclined to do, and just happened. And so I always knew that I was going to be a helper. I just didn't know how that was going to be expressed. And the expression of that continues to change and unfold. At one point when I was living in Spain, I knew that I was going to be helping people with their physical bodies. And I became a personal trainer. And then I knew that there were some deeper things that I wanted to work with. And so I started doing health coaching. Then I realized that I was helping people with an even deeper level. So I expanded that into general life coaching and healing work. And then I was really excited about the ripple effect, and I started helping other healers and entrepreneurs. And now that expression is shifting again.
Yeah, I love that. I love watching all of that. And I really appreciate you sharing that, because so I've done fitness. Well, first I was an engineer in the box, and then fitness, health coach, life coach. Now I'm moving into that spiritual mentorship, which is something that I've always known. Mm-hmm. And here's the thing. This is actually what scares me, is it's too easy. Like, I can actually just I've, been valued, right? The overachiever, for everything that I've achieved my whole life. But if I really do this, if I really say I'm going to be a spiritual mentor, and I still love the health coaching, because we have to take care of our body to embody the spirit. It's a vibrational match. There is that part to it. But if I say that, like, I don't even actually have to do very much anymore. Like, it's just coming to me. Like, it just comes and I just share it. And there's a part of me that's like, well, doesn't everybody do that? And then I realize, well, no, not everybody trusts that they can. I'm not sure what it is, but that's where I'm at in the transition of my life and my business. It's where I'm very loudly being called to step into. And there's all kinds of fear coming up around that. There's, the fear of letting go of another identity, which you've done multiple times, right?
Yes.
Especially when we're good at it.
Exactly. When it doesn't make sense on paper, you're just like, this doesn't make sense that I'm letting this go, but I am.
Yeah. And I'm in that space right now. So thank you for sharing that. It gives me permission to be present with just noticing that I am in that space right now. I can feel it in my throat. It's like, okay.
I am so glad that you are honoring those fears and taking steps forward and listening to the call and making the transition and doing the thing.
Thank you. And in fact, just me saying that out loud was allowing myself to recognize that fear and then voice that just on this podcast, which is, I'm going to go back and listen and be like, oh gosh, what did I say? I just called that out. Did I really? Yeah, I called it out. I'm not editing it out. Don't worry about it. So I want to take the last few minutes to talk about really just this idea of abundance, because this is like one of your superpowers. We've talked about fear. We've talked about how we can use that fear. We can recognize it. We can witness it. We can call it in. We can embrace it. We can seek it in the wholeness of who we are, so that it allows us to be present with our truth. Like, that's what's happening. We're embracing that part of us so that we're whole, we're not separate, and further stepping into our truth with clarity. That's another thing that you're really good at talking about too, is that clear energy. And maybe this is where this is going, but so abundance for me is quality of life. It can be health, it can be connection, it can be love, it can be money, it can be joy, it can be travel, adventure. It's the feeling of fullness, the feeling of just overflowing. And so oftentimes, and I know in my personal experience, and maybe you relate to this, and when we're in this space of transition, no matter what the transition is, no matter whether it's a listener thinking, I'm going to sign up for that gym membership this year and lose that 10 pounds, or whether it's me saying, I'm going to go out into the world and create this program, I'm going to start doing this more spiritually based life coaching. And it's going to be, and I'm going to feel really good. And it's going to feel so good when I'm there. It's like, I can see it, sense it, and feel it. And then there's this thing that happens where it's like, you know, is it really going to happen that way? Like, it's the worthiness thing where we can see it, but we don't have clear energy around it, because there's some type of belief, subconscious, usually we're not aware of it, that based on the patterns, like for me that have been working in the past, well, my achievements were my high achievements were what made me valuable. So how can I move forward and be paid and valuable for this new way of being rather than doing? So there's kind of a lot right there, but for me, it's coming down to this, worthiness of abundance, but it's not a conscious thing. It's like a feeling. And I think that's where the manifestation comes in. Is the manifestation is really from what I've read in your work and heard that you say, is that there's like an energy, keeping clarity around your energy and intentions while moving forward. So can you maybe just tell us a little bit about what that looks like and what that requires to moving into the quality of life that we desire, which is another word for abundance? What does that look like? What is the clarity of energy? How does that affect what we desire to create? And what is a healthy way to move into that or to look at that?
Yeah, I love that question. So I like to tell people that we're always clear about what our next steps are, about what it is that will lead us to experiencing the fullness of our intentions that are aligned with our soul's mission on this planet. But we have those fears, those stories, those patterns that cloud our vision. But there's always one little thing that we're clear about, one little step, and I call it pulling the thread. And if we start to just pull that little thread, whatever it is, if we're clear that we need to take a breath right now, we just pull that thread and we just take a breath. And guess what? Something else is going to show up that we can just pull. And many times this idea that we have to be completely clear about the whole picture of how it's going to happen, what it's going to happen, is just a protection mechanism. It's just something keeping us from taking that first little step. And so as we pull the thread, the ball of yarn unravels and we get to see more and more and more, and we just continue pulling the thread, and it leads us in the direction that our soul wants us to go in. So clarity is not, it doesn't have to be this. We can have a vision where we see everything. That can totally happen. That's part of clarity. It's a specific quality of clarity. But the most common form or quality of clarity that I've experienced and I experience in my clients is the next step, the next little step. We see it and we have the choice to pull that thread or not. And the more we decide to pull that thread, usually the more graceful the process is. And the more we resist pulling that thread, the bigger our eyes have to get to be able to see what's next, and the bigger the issues have to get for us to finally say, okay, it's safer for me to pull this thread right now than to stay where I'm at and not pull that thread. So yeah, I'm going to ask you to rein me in right now and direct me.
So clarity in the present moment. Clarity in the present moment. That was so helpful. I am one of those people who, you said something about looking at the bigger picture is almost a defense mechanism. I can't remember the words you used, but those were my words. And I was like, oh, yep. Yeah. And it's, it's challenging, especially if you can see clearly the vision. And you've seen visions before and they've manifested and you don't even know how. It's coming back to this moment and remembering that really, God and the universe have their plan and we have ours. And which one's going to really get done, right? Like we're not really controlling the entire path of the journey, even though we'd like to think that we are. So it felt really good to hear you say, like, pulling the thread in this moment. Yeah. Because that's really the only truth, is this moment. Yeah, that's typically all we have access to. And there are those moments where we do get flashes of absolute clarity, where we can see everything so clear. And those moments, sometimes they can feel very difficult because you see the vastness of it and it just paralyzes you because it just feels like so much. So whenever we can just take a deep breath, notice what the thread is right there, pull it and move forward with that, it makes it more manageable for the human part of us. Yes, spiritually, we can zoom through this universe and create everything, but we're here having a human experience. So we have to honor the human part that just can't zoom through this experience and create things the way that the spirit can. So yeah. So I hear you saying, just like as we talked about fear, and we're talking about this manifestation of the life that we want, of abundance, it's just honoring where we are and asking for guidance for that next step, just the next step.
Exactly. And at the same time, working with the parts of us that have an idea of what we want based on past traumas and experiences. So yeah. Clarity on what it is that we want that's coming from a place of unconsciousness.
Yeah, that could be an entire episode on its own.
Oh, yeah.
I like to call that, in my words, body wisdom, because if for me it shows up in my body, which is why I chose health coaching. It's my body speaks to me. There's a great book, Waking the Tiger by Peter Levine. It talks about the physiological trauma in the body. And I mean, I've been able to remember things when I was willing to go to the trauma that consciously I could not remember in this, but I knew that they happened because there were people around me. And it's amazing. Like, I mean, we are incredibly miraculous and resilient. And in that, it's important to celebrate that. Yeah. and continue the gratitation.
Gratitation. I love that word.
I'm living in gratitation. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. I love it. It's a fantastic word. So, where can people find you on social media, on your website? If they're wanting to attend your event, where can they find you?
So you can find me at lloydburnett.com, and I have a free training that I always offer to people so that they can get to know what I do. It's a 90-minute training, and you can sign up for that at lloydburnett.com/webinar and experience some of the work that I do around healing our fears and using that energy of fear to intensify our attraction power for what is in alignment with our soul, for what we want that is in alignment with our soul. And I'm on all of the social media platforms, Instagram at Lloyd Burnett.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your energy, your time, your wisdom, your big heart.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for creating this platform for healing, for transformation, for expansion, and giving me an opportunity to share with your community. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's my honor, with deepest gratitude. And I'm going to be sharing your links in the show notes and your podcast as well. I've really enjoyed your podcast, and I love that you're co-hosting. It's kind of a fun experience. So I just want to say thank you. I appreciate you. I see you. I honor you. And I'm grateful for this experience together.
I receive that.
Good. My pleasure. All right. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.